to be speaking with Maxine Lynn and Emma Sayle. So is Maxine around? Have we seen her? Thank you. Come on. Come, Emma. She's not. Can we see her anywhere? Dominica, is Maxine anywhere? This always happens. Someone goes missing. They need a coffee. How are you, Emma? Great. So our next talk is going to be about online and offline sex tech communities. So while we just wait for Maxine to come, maybe you'd just like to introduce yourself.
Okay. Hi. I'm Emma Sayle, as per the name by there, and founder of Kittens originally, which was 14 years ago. So before actually most of what you do existed, tech-wise, in the old school days of having to actually speak to each other face-to-face. And then since then, sort of we've moved into the tech world, and we have the KK group and we just released a new platform. So very much the majority of our business now, revenue-wise, comes from the online tech side of it all. And then last month, we've launched a platform called SISTR, which is a platform connecting women professionally as a mentoring platform. But everything we do has a big offline presence and an online presence. So that's it. And the Sisterhood, the other one, is sort of where SISTR and the tech side of what we do sort of collided and came from with something I launched 14 years ago, which was a big group of girls doing lots of crazy sports events all over the world for various charities, very offline. So yeah, lots of things.
And with regards to Killing Kittens, so tell us a little bit about that, because I mean, I'm from the UK, so I'm really familiar with what Killing Kittens is. Tell us about that.
So Killing Kittens was founded as I sort of felt very angry 15 years ago that the adult world was very much run by men providing everything, actually claiming to be female-friendly, but actually it was very male-orientated. And I wanted to create a safe space online and offline for women to explore their sexuality and feel in control and empowered, and that they owned themselves. So we started what started as an event once a month that was masked, and where sex went on, has gone on to become a big online community side of it. But again, it's all about empowering women sexually, and where the women are very much at the forefront and making the calls and in control of it. So, yeah.
That's great, thank you. Welcome, Maxine. Sorry, we're running a little bit early, which is odd, so thank you for joining us. So just like to introduce everybody to Maxine Lynn, who is a respected sex tech attorney and journalist, and she also has a really amazing podcast called Unzipped, and that's available on iTunes and stuff. So I've listened to a couple, and they're really good, so I really recommend that. First I'll get to our questions. I've just closed up. So this chat is just about building. No, we're on one. No, it's all right. I'll be on the side. So it is about creating community, both online and offline, for sex tech communities. And so I just wanted to talk about your experience with that. So we believe that building a community around a startup can be one of the most effective ways to create momentum when you're launching a product and even keeping the product going, and it's really very important for growth. And that community is much more than a one-time marketing campaign and can help throughout a company's life cycle. So the first question, Emma, so Killing Kittens, as you said, was founded in 2005. And in order to create a female-led future, both online and offline, and you've got millennial females that met online and offline. So how was creating a community back in 2005? How was it? Tell us about that.
So we've become so used to the digital world now, and can anyone in here imagine a time before Instagram, before Facebook, where actually we didn't actually need to speak to people face to face, and it was old school networking? And back in 2005, which isn't actually that long ago, that was the only way to create a community, was to actually get out there and network face-to-face, and word of mouth. That was, you couldn't just set up a Facebook page and, build it and they will come. You had to really go for it, and I was out most evenings and going to every networking event I possibly could that were full of sort of people twice my age, 3 times my age, who ran really successful businesses, and I just wanted to go out and feed off these people and build this community. And so to start with, that's what it was, and actually there's still a big element in our business to that, and the events team within us, sort of, it's a standing joke in the office that I'm like, just, get out there and actually have something that's really scary to millennials and Gen Z people, is those face-to-face conversations and speaking to strangers offline. So that was how we started it, and built it very much word of mouth. And then it's sort of, as the digital world unfolded, I sort of had to keep up and learn very fast, because I'm a very offline person. My online people, if anyone wants to speak to people that are in my tech world, are the 2 really handsome guys at the front row there. And so as we kind of moved into the digital world and that online community built up, to us it was still, and still is, a method to get people to meet offline. So it's not an alternative, it just enables us to be global, for anyone anywhere in the world can feel part of the community, but in the hope that actually it will facilitate those offline encounters. So so to start with, it was very much that face-to-face networking.
And could you have foreseen how your business model is now in 2019 back then?
No, to me, it was, from day one, it was all about community, and still is. And I could see this digital world sort of coming. And from day one, I've always been very conscious of having a website and having that data capture and providing an online community. And the first websites were really shocking and shit. And they've been the bane of my existence. And I think we're on website number 6 in 15 years, and hopefully... I've got the tech team that aren't going anywhere now, so we'll just evolve. So, I think I was always aware of it and having to keep on top of it, but I didn't realize how quickly that digital world would become what everyone lives and breathes.
I don't think we did. I mean,
No.
Myself like you, I remember I was talking about it with my husband this morning. We were discussing what brands are present today that were around before social media even existed. And even just to say that just sounds so incomprehensible. I mean, how on earth could you have planned the way that business is these days? It's completely different. But yeah, that sounds great. So Maxine, you've worked a lot with established brands in the sex and sex tech sector. So how would you define the sex product users who are excited about product or service? Are they already talking about the product on Twitter? Are they sharing it on Instagram? How do you measure what their interests?
Well, I think it's really interesting to see how modern sex tech brands they're very active on social media, which, sex toys and the adult industry was a relatively quiet, unspoken about, industry a decade ago. Anytime before that. And now it's really modern sex tech brands have brought it into a place where people can be open and people can talk about it. And you see people sharing, interesting photos online and talking about the sex toys that they like online, which is just not something that, we, like you guys were saying, we could have predicted, probably only a decade ago. And so I think it's really great to see the modern companies really creating community and making sex positivity cool, and which is the way it should be.
Cool. And do you know how they might even go about creating that? Is that something that you have any insights on?
So I think that's mainly for the marketing people, but I'm an attorney. But it looks like they're very, very active. I mean, some of these companies are posting on social media 3 times a day. I mean, they've probably got full-time people, like probably at least one full-time person per company working on social media because they're so active and they're always responding to people and engaging those communities. And I think that's really one of the secrets to building it, is that, somebody responds to a photo, someone comments on it, and then someone from the company, boom, answers. And so you're keeping the conversation going, so the community starts being built that way, and that other people then get into the conversation, and it just kind of keeps going.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So, and also that kind of brings it back to what you were saying, the companies being so responsive really gives a sense of credibility to that company and connection in place of the real life connection.
I think if you want a community and all brands now need that digital presence and that sort of the tribe that follows you, and that's your community. And I think you've got to live and breathe that, and you have to be aware of that when you're building whatever you're building, and you have to have it in the back of your mind from the whole process, the whole customer journey, from the sign up to the entering the world, the registering, to getting into, looking at the products, the following on social media. If you want that community feel, you've got to have it throughout your entire process. You can't just build something, build tech, and then put it out there and go, well, where's our community? I think you've really got to have it from minute one of whatever you're doing. In order to have it and have that feel. And, as I said, for us, it's from second one of it being sort of, drunk in Ibiza when I came up with the idea and hadn't slept for 3 days. It was very much, right, this is what I want to build. I want that community. So it's sort of, as we've got bigger, it's what's instilled in every member of staff that joins, everything, every product we launch, every part of our business is the first number one thing is that community feel. So you can't be lazy and just sort of get to the end of it and go, right, I built it, put it out there, let's get a community. It's got to be something that's very much number one at the beginning.
Yeah, well, I think some of the larger companies, and even not in sex tech, or particularly in other places, they think they can just throw money at it, build it, and they tick that box like, oh yeah, we've done that, but they're not in it and part of it. So my next question, building the Killing Kittens empire, which now holds events for its 100,000 plus members, wow, all over the world, as well as sex seminars and workshops, must have been a challenge. And online dating community is a double challenge. So how did you get people to become aware of the brand existence?
Well, for anyone that isn't aware of the British media, you probably know the Daily Mail. The Daily Mail helped us massively. So back when we launched, it was the UK tabloids. There's no such thing as bad publicity, as far as I'm concerned. And so there was that shock factor of, oh my God, there are sex parties happening in England. And someone that's actually putting their hand in the air and saying, and I'm organising them, take a picture of me.
And it's a woman, and a young woman as well.
It was a young woman in her 20s who could speak English properly, and had a private school background. So someone like the Daily Mail loved that combination, and so it was this cat and mouse game. We played with the tabloids when we first launched. And in that process, for every sort of 100 people that went, that's disgusting, there was 10 that went, that sounds freaking awesome, I'm going to sign up. So the more that happened, that's why I never saw it as bad publicity, no matter what they said about me or how bad the pictures were. I thought, well, even if it makes one person sign up and become part of our community, then I'll take that as a win. Even if there's 20,000 trolling me on Twitter telling me that, yeah, I'm disgusting and going to hell, it's irrelevant. There's one person signing up. So yeah, that's how we did it.
And over time, how did you get to know your users and their behaviours?
I love people, and I have tried to, now, we do so many events, but I will still try and get out to 1 or 2 a month to talk to members, to chat and find out what they want. And our online team, as well, we have big sort of chat groups going on. And it was I've always very much been sort of listen to the feedback, listen to, what members want, and then, put it together.
And how would they give that feedback? Would they do it by message? Would it be to person? Would it be through somebody else?
So people love feedback, and after we find our members are very opinionated, and after every event we do, we'll get lots of emails telling us exactly how to do our jobs and, what they want to see at the parties, and, they're all completely mixed, whole range, so that we can't do everything that everyone wants. So that, or at events you get chatting, and to be honest, I'll still go to our events, and I keep quiet and sort of wander around, and I still get people saying, oh, is this your first party? Have you been before? And I just keep quiet, and I'm not that dickhead that goes, well, it's my company, because you don't hear anything. So it's sort of, I've liked sort of slipping in and, acting like it's my first time, or I go, oh, I've been to a couple, and you just get chatting and you hear the real feedback and you hear what people really think. So it's a mixture of that offline feedback and sort of the ones we get. People can't help themselves. We get hundreds of emails after all the events on what we could be doing better or what they loved. So, and then we send out, we've sent out surveys, online surveys asking people sort of what they want. So our new platform now has come about from nearly 5,000 of our members spending nearly a year sort of surveying them and finding out what makes them tick and what they'd want to see in a platform, and then would kind of sort of limit the range a bit more. And so we've kind of got the product that we've just gone live in the last month, which we're still adding to, is actually been off the back of what we've been asked for.
And it's quite interesting because you do a couple of, well, as you said, you've got the SISTR app, which has just launched. Is that what we're saying? That, yeah. So congratulations. And the Kittens. So do you find that the way that you engage with those communities is transferable, even though one is in sex tech and one
is
isn't?
Working women, professional women. It's very transferable, and actually a lot of the tech we put onto SISTR and that we're adding to is actually what has been built for Killing Kittens. So again, it's that community, it's the chat, it's that forum discussion, the event side. It's actually, so that the tech is very transferable, and actually that sense of belonging and being part of something, and being part of a community, which in the tech digital world that we live in, loneliness is massively increasing, and is sort of one of the number one mental health issues socially in the world. And that's from that isolation that the digital tech world is putting on people, that ability to think like you're communicating with people all day, every day. And some people don't leave their houses or actually see or speak to a person face to face in days, but yet they feel like they've been interacting. And you can't beat that person, that physicality. I said that wrong. That sort of the closeness of actually being face to face with someone. No, I don't personally believe that there is any amount of tech in the world that will ever replicate that kind of being actual human contact. Yeah. Never. And listen to that. And if you ever find it, or if it ever happens, just come back and find me and go, you were wrong. But I bet I'm not.
So, and Maxine, so if you want to pass the mic over. So what is your opinion of tokenized sex and entertainment products? So can we create a really vibrating community around them, for example, like web services? So the Killer Kittens became a real female empowerment movement. Do you think the same model could be implemented in the sex workers platforms? And what are the real threats to that?
Sure. So I think that tokenized systems it's big business already, and it's growing exponentially. Campsites it's huge. In terms of the model being able to be applied, excuse me, to sex workers in a prostitution sense, I think that at the moment it's going to be difficult, at least in the United States, because we have passed back last April was the Allow States and Victims to Fight Online Sex Trafficking Act, which has put a lot of liability on website service providers. So for example, any type of website that allows messaging among users, that allows posting, even Facebook faces issues like this. So basically...
And this was the law just passed?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Trump signed it off, didn't he?
Yep, just in April of 2018. As far as I know, there haven't been prosecutions yet, but it's a looming fear in the industry, especially in websites that target people who are looking for escorts, people who are looking for sex workers. And so basically, the law puts liability on the website provider if on their site third-party users message one another and say, hey, I want a BJ, and and he says, I'll pay you $50, and she says, okay, or up to 25 years in jail. So there's hefty fines and up to 25 years in jail. And the law says, it's either intent, which we know what intent is, or just facilitation, reckless facilitation of this practice is illegal, or it puts liability on the website service provider. So what happens between two people on the site can now be held against the website service provider in terms of liability. So what happened is a lot of websites targeted to these kinds of things, escort services, have shuttered. Some of them are still around. Some of them have moved outside of the United States. It's questionable, though, what's going to happen if they're based outside the United States but still operating. Yeah, it's going to create...
So we've had to... the tech lockdown there, my CEO, we'll name about it, but we had a sudden, not panic, but it happened so quickly. And we have a big US membership base, and we have events in New York and some in LA and occasionally Miami. And we had to literally spend a lot of money and change a lot of the community platform side of it. And we had our online payment provider shut down in the States, said we couldn't do it in the States anymore. And they literally, gave us a month notice on that. So it was all a bit, and we've had to change that, and even, our forums, and we're not about sex trafficking or the escort side of it, but it's that if you have forums and chat rooms and that ability to direct message, then you're responsible. So we can't control, so we've had to encrypt all of that and move it back into sort of, being very security enabled so that we don't allow that. And even the photos, we've had to move into private galleries. So yeah, it's been a ball ache.
Yeah, and the stated purpose of the law is to fight human trafficking. Unfortunately, though, the reality of what the law is doing is actually probably making that worse, and it's creating a very unsafe environment for voluntary sex workers. People participating in prostitution is becoming very dangerous because they used to have a community online where they were able to help one another. They were able to share, blacklisted clients with one another. They were able to help. They were able to screen they were able to screen their clients ahead of time. Whereas now they've had to basically go underground to when it was 1970 and go back to pimps because so many of their online portals that allowed them to do this are gone because of this law.
So that's even taken away their independence as well, and their voice.
Yeah, absolutely.
And everything. So it's a real blow to women, female empowerment and everything. Wow, so it sounds a bit Handmaid's Tale, doesn't it? A question for both of you. So real community doesn't happen overnight, and every community will go through an awkward phase where conversations feel a little forced and people aren't initiating conversations of their own. So in 2019, how do we boost the community of sex products in the times of censorship?
I think it's to keep going and trying to make our voices heard. I think that, like I was saying earlier, it's really amazing what social media has allowed us to do. Sex tech and adult industry in general has become so much less stigmatized than it used to be because people are able to communicate and talk about it, and because of that, more and more people are joining basically what's becoming a revolution. And I think that if we keep going and we keep making our voices heard, you're going to see less situations like Tumblr and more companies working with us. I know that recently Facebook met with an adult industry performers group to hear their concerns, which is, this is unheard of.
Yeah,
unheard
I didn't know about that.
Yeah,
so.
It's amazing. So I'm not sure what's going to actually, if anything's going to change, but in the meantime, that was a great first step, and that's because people have been speaking out, and whether it be at a forum like this or on social media, and I think if people in the community just keep making their voices heard, then the community will continue to grow, and we'll see change where we need it.
Oh, great. And so Emma, do you have anything to add to that? So how do we boost the community of sex products in the times of censorship?
I totally agree with what Maxine said. It's that, if one person puts their hand in the air and says, I do this, it encourages the next person to put their hand in the air and go, well, it's all right to do that. So, and the next person, and you get, we saw it with Me Too. It's Me Too, Me Too, Me Too, and you create a movement, and that, the digital world enables those movements and enables those communities to spring up really, really quickly. And I think that's the thing. They can censor all they want. They can try, and shut down and certain things and make it more difficult. But the more they do that, the more actually that fire underneath people, especially the female community when it comes to sex, is it keeps burning and it keeps being stoked. So the movement's just getting bigger. And that's, you can't stop it. And, you might be able to shut down certain aspects of the digital world, when it comes to that, but there will be other ones popping up. And, so it just keeps going.
Well, I don't know whether, I introduced myself as part of Love Giver, but actually Love Giver is going to be an e-commerce platform, but also combined a sex-positive social media. So something we are going to be providing is a platform where people can be more open and share this stuff. And when we launched it, we wanted it to be specifically for that, but we didn't realise that it would actually maybe be the only place that people could, and the avenues have just gotten narrower and narrower. But in part of our launch, it has been, we're creating all of the community and have been really working for that for 2 years now, even though there's just a holding page, but the community is there with sex bloggers and sex workers and people who really... people who are just really proud of their sexuality in whatever way. It may be just a private way, but, that communication and just like you were saying, just, people connecting with one another going, oh, I like that too, is so important. That's great. So, and Maxine, so even with your podcast, so you must have found you're creating community around that as well.
Yeah, I'm working on it. It's still a work in progress. It's relatively new. I finished season 1, and I'm going to start up again in the fall. And it's about the business of sex. And so I interview different companies in sex tech or in adult industry, porn, any aspect of the industry where we can get some interesting information, because people in all of these parts of adults are really interesting, and their stories. There's a lot of commonalities in the difficulties that they face, and I am working on creating a community around that.
Brilliant. And another question for you, Maxine. I was just wondering, so you work as a sex tech attorney, so have you encountered any cases involving censorship yet? Has that happened, or are you getting inquiries, or...?
I get a lot of inquiries. In terms of censorship is happening everywhere, and we just do the best that we can to deal with it. I can't actually share client confidences, so a lot of that would be private between me and the client, but I can say that it's obvious. Censorship is happening everywhere, and I help guide my clients in ways around censorship and where government is involved with regard to what they can do about it. Unfortunately, with regard to private censorship, so for example, a company like Facebook or Twitter, they're private companies, at least under United States law. They're private industry, so they have the right on their platform, with some limitations. But for the most part, they have the right to dictate what can and cannot be on their platform. Now, in the U.S., we have the free speech clause in our Constitution, the Bill of Rights. Now, what people don't always understand or realize is that that's actually applicable really to government. So unless it's coming from the government, the censorship, private censorship on social media sites is not against the law, at least in the United States.
Right.
So it's there's not always legal recourse, but where there is, I can help.
Brilliant. Oh, that's great. Thank you so much, both of you. It's really interesting there. So hopefully Foster will, something can be done to reverse that a little bit.
Oh, it is on appeal.
Oh,
yeah, it is on appeal in the court system right now. So, keeping an ear out. We're hoping to hear something soon. Great.
All right, that's great. So thank you very much. Thank you very much, Emma and Maxine. So,